This is Midwest Cover Crop Chronicles, where we explore the experiences of Midwestern farmers who are transforming their fields through cover cropping. Each episode, we'll hear from farmers who are cultivating success, enriching their soil, and fostering sustainability. Join us as we uncover the victories they've celebrated, challenges they've faced, and lessons they've learned along the way. Today we're near Mexico, Missouri with Linus Rothermich, and we're standing out in this wonderful breeze, a little bit cooler weather for this spring day. But we are in his cover crop field where he's got cereal rye and a little bit of hairy vetch. And so we'll get to that a little bit more. But Linus, I want to start with you first, and just hear a little bit more about what got you into using cover crops.
Okay, I kind of started toying with cover crops when nitrogen hit 50 cents a pound. That was my first thing. It's like, my gosh, 50 cents a pound nitrogen. I wish I could get that today. But so I was looking at what organic people did, and they were growing vetch. So I got a little interest in that. Well, I didn't really develop it much more than that. And then come 2012, I went to a field day in Southern Illinois, and I kind of learned some other people there. And then the other thing that really got me going about it, Mike Plummer was down in a soil pit, and they actually have a clay pan soil that's similar to ours here. And it's like he was talking about how they couldn't get the organic matter above 3%, but they were increasing the depth of it. Well, my thought in my mind was we have eroded spots here where our subsoil is our topsoil. So it's like, if I could get 2% organic matter in the top 2 inches of that eroded spots, I could probably grow better crops. So that's really the part that got me really going into the cover crops.
And so what are you doing with your cover crops now?
Okay, part of it is, I do seed production, but mainly I just grow vetch and cereal rye together as a cover crop.
Okay.
So.
And you're terminating ahead of corn, and do you do the same thing ahead of soybeans?
Normally I plant green both crops, but that's also varies on weather. If it's getting dry, we'll go ahead and terminate and try to get everything planted before hopefully the next rain event.
Okay, and you're planting both your corn and your soybeans green into the rye vetch mix.
Yep. Sometimes the soybeans will just have a rye mix, but normally I'm in front of corn. I want to make sure I got some legume in front of it with the corn. So.
Okay, so you don't necessarily get too worried about the vetch and the rye taking up too much moisture on you.
Yeah. Well, we're standing in the field that I kept letting it grow because I wanted to get enough growth out of it. And we were extremely dry that spring. And then I finally got enough growth, and then I sprayed it, and we planted it, had enough moisture to get the corn up, and then it just sat there. And each afternoon looked like it was going to die. And then we got a couple rains. It didn't quite make average, but it still made 140 bushel, and I was just tickled to death with it, because that's about all the rest of my corn was making.
And so let's dive into a little bit. You said that you're growing rye and vetch for seed production.
That's correct.
Is that largely just to supply your own needs, or are you going out and selling off some to neighbors or others?
Part of it's for my own supply, and then I'm selling some of it off. But actually, the first vetch I could get, the guy would only sell it to me if I growed seed.
Okay.
I'd grown some seed, and he would actually clean it. So that got me into the growing the seed for it. So, but then I've kind of created a market with other farmers to sell seed to.
So how does this all fit together in your crop rotation?
Well, because I do things a little different. This usually comes off later than wheat, but I do try to double crop behind it. And I've grown some sunflowers behind this as a double crop, and I also do some Japanese millet, which is also seed production after this, which is a warm season grass that really puts it has a lot of growth. It has a lot of tonnage just for seed production. So
you're getting the sunflower and the millet as really a double crop following.
It is a double crop.
The rye and the vetch.
Out here planting it the middle of July after I've harvested this.
You're really extending out your rotation from what would probably be down here even is a typical corn soybean rotation, I would guess.
Yep.
And you're expanding that out to have the vetch and the cereal rye, but then also the sunflower and the millet.
Yep.
Now, is that then, I guess, reducing risk overall across, so to speak, across the farming enterprise then for you?
Yeah, it's reducing risk, but one of the things it's also doing, I'm taking two cover crops, the rye and the vetch to full maturity, and if I got the Japanese millet, which is another big crop, that's another cover crop that's went to full maturity.
So let's jump back into the seed production, because you're intercropping the rye and the vetch.
Yep, that's
and
correct.
So you're planting at the same time?
Yep.
And
Yep.
then how are you, I guess, managing it and then coming back and harvesting it and getting the seed?
Well, the vetch is a viney crop, and I'm told to put the rye with it so it has a trellis to crawl up on. It likes to crawl up, the rye will come up, and the vetch, and it'll kind of get to maturity, and then the vetch will come over, and then the vetch crawls up on it and just pulls it all down to the ground. I was told that was the way to do it, and I have kind of done it as a single crop. It just doesn't produce a seed as much vetch seed as the two combined.
Sure.
And then a lot of the other farmers just want rye as a cover crop.
So that other venture is
Cleaning
cleaning and separating seed,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah.
you're harvesting the rye and the vetch at the same time frame.
That's correct. So the vetch is round. The biggest secret there on separating those two is to get the trash out. But the spiral soybean cleaners that take the splits out of the soybeans, just run that through. The vetch is round, it rolls off the side, the rye stays in.
With the vetch being a legume, are you applying any nitrogen for the rye side, or
No,
are
I'm
you
not,
getting
I'm
the
not,
production
I'm not.
you need just from
No.
the vetch?
No, the only thing I really apply is I'll do a fungicide on the rye.
Okay.
There at heading time. And normally rust kind of works on the rye too, so I'll put some fungicide on it, heading time on the rye.
And then that fungicide's also helping you with ergot, I would imagine, a little bit.
Yep, got some of that with that too, so.
Interesting to look out here, right? Because you do see the rye, from the road.
Yeah.
But it's not until you really get in here that you start to see that hairy vetch starting to come through.
Yep.
Now, are you using certain variety of vetch or even rye, or do you use a variety not stated?
I'd like to use Ryman rye. I've used other ryes. The Ryman seems to match up a little better with the vetch than some of the earlier maturing ryes, because I've kind of learned to go to a later maturing rye. And then the vetch is the original person I got vetch from. That's the same one we got. We don't have a variety for it, but it works pretty good. All homegrown seed.
Homegrown seed, and it works. It's working well for you. I know, as we go further north to where I'm from, up in Iowa, the vetch, we're looking for something that's really winter hardy.
Yep.
To be able to carry us through.
Yeah,
And so that's part of the reason I was thinking on your hairy vetch, if there's a specific variety there. So with the hairy vetch, sometimes there is a concern about hard seed. Have you noticed anything with that? And how do you manage that, or how do you work with that?
Yeah, there's hard seed in the vetch, and it keeps coming up. And for me, because I'm not growing wheat, it's still working, because it's like free cover crop seed out here to me. Man, if you're growing wheat, you're gonna kind of have to be leery about where you got the vetch and what you're gonna do to control the vetch if it's growing in wheat.
So the vetch is good. It's just you be careful on what you have as your overall rotation.
If you're in corn and bean without wheat, it's excellent. But man, you go throwing the wheat in the conversation, and you're going to get frustrated there.
So how many other farmers are using your seed, or do you go directly kind of through a dealer and not direct to the farmer?
I'm trying to do direct to farmers, because I want to kind of teach them what's going on, and if they're having problems, I want to help them work on it. And actually, some of the other people that I'm selling seed to have been doing it longer than I have, and I'm learning from them also. So I have one farmer that says he'll plant vetch in front of everything. He says, I think it's adding me 6 to 8 bushels, because that late season nitrogen's coming in when those soybeans are needing it, which I haven't tried that out yet. But that's what he talks about.
Do you have, as part of that, I'll call it education, with your neighbors that are buying the seed, do you have field days, or is it just a lot of, I'll call it the shed conversations?
It's mainly a cell phone call.
Okay.
And we'll have a cell phone call, and we'll go from there. And You know, I'll get questions and I want to have answers for, but I know some other people that call and we'll send them in that direction.
Okay, I'm going to switch gears on us a little bit here and get us thinking about, in some respects, going back to, kind of what got you started in cover crops, but, what benefits have you started to see with the cover crops that you've been using? Because you've been doing this for quite a while.
Yeah, had pretty well every acre sown with cover crop since 2013. So when I talked about adding that 2% organic matter to those eroded spots, you used to see those pretty plainly because of the lesser crop or the lesser growth or the lesser yield. Well, I'm starting to see that where it's getting harder to find those spots, which is good. Those spots are improving. They're raising the average up. You know, the good soil, my good soils are staying pretty even, but those poorer yielding areas are moving up. So that is one of the main things I have seen out of this. Erosion reduction. And next thing is we get hot and dry in the summer, so we got cover on the soil. If we do get that occasional thunderstorm that comes through and dumps a couple inches of rain on us real quick, I want to collect every drop right then if I can. So the other thing is the biology. That's another thing I like to vetch about. It really stimulates the earthworms in the soil. And we've got all that biology going on, and the cover helps that all, keeping it from underneath direct sunlight. So
How has having the cover crop changed that herbicide program? I know you haven't necessarily cut costs, and that's largely related to some of that resistance, but I'm guessing that compared to when you haven't had cover crops, you've had to rethink how you've done those herbicides now.
yeah, somewhat. Part of it's the planting green, because I'll leave that, because when you're planting green, if it's going to stay wet, I usually don't worry about burn down too much. I'll keep planting. We've also been saying we're going to be wet, and all of a sudden the rain leaves the forecast. Then I'll switch from Roundup as a burn down to Paraquat, because I want to kill it real fast, trying to conserve my moisture right then to get the seed. So I got enough moisture to get the seed to come up out of the ground. The first few years I did it, man, I had a lot of anxiety, but I've gotten kind of old. It's like, well, okay, we got that situation. We'll just work our way through it, and pretty well worked out. So
How do you approach, or maybe what are your tips and keys to planting green into the cover crops? Are there certain things that you're looking for in the stage or the soil conditions?
well, one of the things I have learned about planting green, you need to be putting fertilizer on with the planter. And then people will ask me about what closing system. Do you have, I do have trash wipers on them, but most of the time they're raised up. And then people want to know, what do you got for closing wheel? I got the original round and rubber ones. Actually, my soil has gotten improved so much that they just work excellent. It did make me buy auto steer because I couldn't see where the mark was, which I've thoroughly enjoyed, the auto steer. I was first using liquid fertilizer to plant with, and I went to dry, and I just pretty well put all my P and K, put a little bit of nitrogen down and put all my P and K on while I'm planting, and use that as a starter instead of using some of the higher priced liquids.
So your starter fertilizer is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium.
Yeah, and some micros.
Some micros, and you're putting it basically your full rate of the phosphorus and potassium.
Yep. And then side dressing the rest of the nitrogen on the corn, coming back with that.
Have you noticed any changes on how you set up the planter as far as the depth gauge wheels or down pressure and I mean, the ultimate goal, right, is to
probably the biggest change is adding some weight so you can put enough down pressure on it.
Okay. Let's jump into the fall and talk a little bit about establishment of your cover crops. What are you doing for establishment as far as your seeding method and timing and even your seeding rates because of the interseeding mixture?
Okay. I went and bought a drill. I bought a 30-foot, went and bought a brand new 30-foot Landau box drill. If I'm growing for seed production, it's normally about 18 pounds of vetch and about 40 pounds of rye. And where I'm going for cover crops, it's usually down to about 15 pounds of vetch and about 30 pounds of rye. The thing on the vetch is you need to have it inoculated. And then one of the things I did see early when I first started planting vetch, it seemed like the first time I ever had vetch in the field, it just didn't do much. And then the next time I come back, man, it just took off. And we believe that it just takes for the inoculum to build up in the soil for the first time, and then the second time it's ready to go. Sometimes it would take off, but sometimes it wouldn't. So.
Have you adjusted your maturities on the corn and soybeans to facilitate a little bit longer time in the fall?
No, I usually don't worry about too much on planting, as long as I can get it done by the first week of November here in central Missouri. So probably one of the changes I've changed is I've kind of waited for the weather to warm up, especially planting corn. I don't want to be planting anything before the last week of April. And actually, I'm starting to look more into the first week of May. If I can get it done by the middle of May, I'm pretty happy. I'm actually letting the cover crop grow a little more, and we're getting a little more growth out of it before we plant the other crop.
Are there things that you would have changed or done differently?
I still learn that Mother Nature bats last, so you just never know what she's going to throw at you. That's probably that's just something you can't do anything about. You can go out here and do the best you can, and if it don't work out, do it again if you got time. So,
looking ahead, what are you thinking about? What's the next goal or next management change that you're really thinking about and trying to determine whether it's something you're going to go after or not?
I just want to keep improving my yield while I'm doing with the cover crop. I just want to show people it's like we can grow good cover crops and we can grow good crops. Come on, man, you need to start saving your soil. You need to be looking at the future generations. That's probably one of my things I worry about. It's like, man, if we lose all of our topsoil, those people might go hungry someday. So.
Well, thank you, Linus. This has been a great conversation with you. I've definitely learned a few things that I got to rethink how I approach cover crops and non-cereal rye cover crops with this discussion. So thank you.
All right, you're welcome.